Hey guys, it is Tammy. It is Tuesday and it is time for Tuesday tips, techniques, and teachings. And my collar is funky. Anyhow, hope you're having a fabulous Tuesday. Where I am, it's rather dreary. It's gonna look a little bit like the picture I'm gonna paint. But if you happen to pop on, please say hello. If you would be so sweet to sprinkle or cheer this on, I'd appreciate that. That lets me reach more people and more people get to see the stuff I'm doing. Sometimes that's okay. I'm gonna reach over here just super quick and see if I can find it. I will tell you, I was in one of my group pages earlier today and Facebook was wonky, just wonky. There you go. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, Phyllis. Thank you for sharing and sprinkling and cheering us on. Okay, so I love to add hand painting to stenciling. I've done it for as long as I can remember. And so that's kind of what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you a little picture. This is kind of what I did. And then I have another thing I did that I haven't done yet that we're going to do. But this is all from the Essential Stencil Stencil of the Month Club. And this is the February set. Now, the club is open right now. It is only open for 7 days. And this set is the birth flowers. So you have all the birth flowers each month. There's a flower and it says the month and the flower. I'm sorry. I really can talk. Yeah. So like January, which we're going to look at, it says January and it says snowdrop. And every month you get 3 large 12 by 16 stencils that come to your door magically. And there's several ways that you can join Stencil of the Month Club. And the best way to find those out is to go to stencilofthemonthclub.com. And with whether you want to do month by month, if you want to pay for 3 months at a time, 6 months at a time, see what their offerings are. And then there's always an option to do the add-on. And this month's add-on is Grandma's Garden, Our Family Garden, If Friends Were Flowers, I'd Pick You. Sisters are different flowers from the same garden. So some really great sayings that will certainly work well with all those flower stencils. Okay, so the great thing about Stencil of the Month Club is you can skip a month, you can cancel anytime, and if you haven't tried it yet, if you go to use this as your first month, use Cheers and you'll save 50% off your first month of the regular stencils. It does not apply to the add-on or to shipping. But hey, saving money, saving money. Okay. And I also wanted to remind you, just in the general aspect of Essential Stencils, they are doing free shipping all January. So if there's a stencil you've kind of wanted but haven't gotten it because you didn't have enough to do free shipping, this is the month to do it. So whether you just need to get a pack of brushes, which are back in stock, or a stencil you've been eyeing, it's a great month to do it. And there too, if you use Cheers, you can save 10%. Okay, I'm gonna start this little thing. I'm gonna put you down. And because I've got 2 little projects I want to show you today, confession, I have not cleaned my stencil yet, but we're going to be using this in just a little bit. I'm going to set this aside for now. But before I can use that, I need to create a little bit of a background. So that's what we're going to do. And the background is what kind of looks a little bit like my day today. So again, if you could be so kind to sprinkle this around or cheer it on, that would be awesome. And if you're not getting texts when I go live, please feel free to text the word cheers to 847-713-1668. Cheers will be that little clue for them to put you on a list that whenever I remember to text before I go live, and you'll get that as well. Okay, so I'm gonna have to move this out of the way so I can put this here. So I'm just painting in my multimedia pad, and we're gonna do the background, and then I'm gonna show you a little something before we get into that flower. Like I said, this is kind of really what it looks like around here today. It's kind of gray. So this is just my multimedia pad. I have taped the edges. I don't know if you can see that because it's just the magic tape. And if you are one who tapes the edges, let me give you a little hint. Before you remove the tape, hit it with your blow dryer. That loosens the glue and makes it easier so you're not tearing your pages. I am going to put out some Colonial Blue paint. Colonial Blue is a grayish, a medium tone grayish blue. I might have to go get another bottle of it. That's the color. But you can also make that color with white, black, and just a touch of a clean blue. What is happening here? Okay, let's see. We can adjust that. So I put some of the Colonial Blue on my plate and quite a bit of white on my plate. And I'm going to get a large enough brush so I can do some quick with it blending. So dampen my brush. Whenever you're blending paint, you just need to have enough paint in your brush or moisture that could be in the form of water or paint. So I'm going to pick up white and some blue. Okay, I'm just kind of sort of mixing them. And I'm going to do this about 1/4 of the way up. And I'm just going to go up and down. I might want a little more white. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Up and down, 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 up and down. And that's going to be my very background. Okay? And then I'm going to have a couple levels of ground. So I'm just going to wipe that brush off on a paper towel. I'm going to pick up a little more white and I'm going to go this way. And I'm going to go back and forth this way. I'm picking up white. This is going to be a snowy scene, but snow is not straight white. That has to have some other colors in it. And in this case, the Colonial Blue, that gray blue, works well for my shading. Just picking up a little more white. All the way down here. Okay. I'll be adding more to that as I go, so I'm not too worried about it. Just gonna wipe my brush off again. I'm not cleaning it. I'm just gonna give myself an idea, well, about here. That's just to remind me that's where my background is. Now, I'm gonna put some background trees in there, and I'm not gonna let it dry completely, so I might actually pick up some paint. If I wanted it to be very distinct, I would make sure it was dry first. Still the same brush. I'm picking up some white and I'm just making sure I'm pushing it down on both sides. That way I have a nice, sharp chisel edge, okay? And I'm just gonna pull some of these little white marks up. Maybe one goes this way. These are not gonna get any detailing, so maybe there's a couple that are a little. That's it. Not too tough, right? Now I do want to make sure that they look like they're in snow, so I'll come back with the white and I'll just kind of like brush in my white so they look like they're back in snow. Make sure all of them are actually connected to the snow. That one wasn't, so let's just kind of okay. All right. I'm going to just grab a smaller brush because I want to put a couple trees in here that are a little more distinctive. So I am going to go ahead and hit this super quick. Okay, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that so very much. Now I want to have a couple trees. Remember, this is what we're working on. I want to have a couple trees that are like not right in my back horizon line, but maybe about mid-ground. So I'm just going to grab a slightly smaller brush. I think here's an 8 flat. I think it doesn't matter, just something that you're comfortable with. And I'm going to go into just straight white paint. Just hello from Vermont. So just straight white paint, okay? And I'm gonna lay down a couple trees. I'm gonna pull one, maybe one that's just a little bit further down here. I'm just gonna pull it up. Hey, the really great thing about painting birch trees is they are not straight. They are not. Birch trees are not straight. So I don't have to try to make them straight. If by chance you're a little more of a perfectionist than I am, which doesn't take much, you certainly could, as long as your background is dry, you could put tape down to mark off your sides so they're straighter. So I've got that guy. I'm going to do a couple on the other side. Let's do one about, this one's good. Do one just a little further up here. And when I run out of paint, I just add more. That's okay. So there's that guy. Let's do one more right next to him, and he's going to Y off. Now, even though these are going to have a little more detail in them, they're still pretty simple. Okay. So all I've done is white paint to create the, let's call it the basic shape of my tree. Now, if you like to have some branches that come off, by all means, add those. And before we go on and really set in our birch trees, I've still got just that white paint on my brush. I'm just gonna like lay a little bit at the base of these trees so they look like they are in snow. And see what that did already? That already makes it look like I've got this background of snow where these trees are further back. This is very similar to a technique we used in last night's Fox and Friend class. And it's also a little different. So I'm going to rinse my brush out because I don't want it to be sopping with wet paint. And I'm going to grab some black paint. All right. Let me check, see if there's comments. Hello, Val. Val saw me earlier today when we had technical issues. Hopefully this one can get by without any. So I'm going to keep that same brush, and I'm going to pull some black paint, and I'm going to push down. And I may not have cleaned this brush out perfectly. It's okay. So if this was in a strong black and it was a little more of a gray, that'd be okay. Now, I want to have a brush that when I do that, I'm going to still have a very nice chisel edge of my brush. Now, I wanted these to stand out a bit more, so I'm going to come on that chisel edge of my brush, and it doesn't have to be a perfect outline. I just want to almost more hit and miss. And I can be a little shaky. It's okay to be a little shaky. And it's okay if I kind of come in my line. See, I made a little mess there. It's okay. Because the next step I'm going to do is with that same brush, I'm going to make just little light flecks, almost in a little bit of an arch. And I'm going to do this on both sides of the tree. Okay, and we're not done with that tree. I'm going to come over to this guy. I'm not going to do anything to my very background trees. And again, just that soft little fleck, setting it down, almost a slight little curve. So that's that side. Let's do this side. I still have not cleaned out my brush. A little flecks. Outlining the other side, and I know I just picked up a bunch of white paint, so this is going to show up a lot lighter. I'm going to go ahead and give my paint just a tiny bit more paint, or brush a little more paint, and come up. And again, I'm not outlining every little inch of it. I'm just staying on that chisel edge. If you really have a hard time with chisel edge, or your brush just is kind of in shabby shape, you can kind of skip line this with a round or a liner brush too. Same brush, I'm just going to push it down a little harder on my plate. I'm going to give it a couple little flecks of the black. Both sides. Then, I'm going to rinse that out first. I'm just going to rinse it out and set it aside. I'm going to grab a smaller brush, like a little liner brush. Well, maybe I am. I apparently didn't put everything away. Okay, so it's just a little small round brush. Couldn't even tell you what it was once upon a time. It's not important. It's about this big. So I'm just going to go into a little black. And every once in a while, I'm going to go ahead and give it just a couple little lines. Or I could even squiggle in almost like a knot. These are still background trees, so they don't have to be completely detailed. I did not on this one, but if you wanted to, you could add extra little black skinny lines, like little twiggy ones coming out. They're few and far between. Okay, so we have our birch trees in our background. Now, we've dried this, but it's okay because we're going to pick up a brush. And first, I'm going to go into my white paint again, and I'm just going to make sure these trees are set in some snow, and then I'm just going to scuff some snow here and there. See how that blue, because there's different shades of it, you definitely get the feel that there's already some shading. Not cleaning my brush, I'm wiping it off. And I'm going to go into a little more of that straight blue, so darker color. And I'm going to dip it into my water, then dip it onto my paper towel so it's not going to be super wet. And I'm just going to think that this tree here is probably going to give a little bit of a shadow. Maybe even this one up here, or these. I may have other shadows that occur too, but we're just going to lay a couple in, and we'll worry about adding some more white in a bit. Okay, I need this to dry before I can start playing with my snowdrop, but I was starting to play with another pattern, and this next sheet I show you is not finished. I don't know if it's going to get finished. I'm really struggling with what I'm working with, but I was going to have this little bunny sniffing a dandelion, but let's just move this aside for just a second. What if we have him sniff, him or her, I don't know what it is. And again, he is not done, okay? But what if we just have him sniff this little snowdrop? So I'm not going to use the whole thing. And of course, I don't have my tape nearby. Really? Oh, I do have my tape nearby. Hang on, hang on. So I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just want to do this one snowdrop. So I'm going to position it such that he's just sniffing this one snowdrop. So I can still keep everything but this flower. I can have all the greens. And I'm going to tape this down. Set him down. Tape it about there. Okay. So I'm going to do this a little differently than I'm going to do on our winter scene. But I need to think about, in this case, I've got these dark greens, light greens, all these greens happening underneath there. And a snowdrop leaf is a little brighter green because it's a new, fresh, springy green. So what I'm going to do is just going to grab some Hauser green medium, and I know or light, and I know I have some of that in here already. I'm just going to add just a touch of yellow to it. I'm not going to need a ton because I'm going to stencil this. So I'm just going to add a dot. And first things first, just going to mix those two up so I have a little lighter color. Make sure I like it before I get into it. Yeah, I think that'll show up. I think it will. If not, we will play with it as we go. So I need to turn my little turntable around so I can get to a couple stencil brushes. Okay, so stenciling. When you are loading your stencil brush, you want to make sure you have paint across the whole thing. However, we don't ever want to take that brush and go right to our stencil because it's going to be too wet. So you need something like a paper towel or a paper plate or a piece of cardboard to offload. And there's still more paint in there than you can possibly imagine. I'm just going to pretend I don't see my flower here, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm swirling, and this may or may not cover in one coat, but I would rather have to give it a second coat than to have it bleed underneath. Let's make sure we've got this covered up. So I'm going to get a little more paint, but I'm still going to offload. Hanging on to this little guy. A little more paint, offload. Okay, I'm just gonna, I think I'm done with that, but I'm just gonna wrap it in something damp in case I'm not. I'm gonna grab another brush. I'm gonna go into my white paint, and again, I'm gonna really swirl that paint into it, but if I go with it that wet, it most likely is going to run and smear. Okay. I know I'm going to be covering or filling that in, but I still want nice, crisp lines. Okay, so it's really hard to see my leaves, so I'm probably going to need to come back and lay that stencil back down and go with a lighter color, but that's okay. I don't know if I need this or not, so we'll wrap that in the damp towel too. I'm going to use a smallish round brush, and I'm going to borrow some of that colonial blue. And I'm going to, from near the cup that it comes in, goes back to the stem, I'm going to pull some blue right next to that middle section and right next to the bottom on the two outer petals. I'm going to go about halfway up. Then I'm going to rinse my brush or wipe it off or both. I'm going to go into my white, and I'm going to start at the tip, and I'm going to pull back down into the blue. This is on those two outer petals. We'll give it just a second for that to dry enough so I'm not pulling the color into my middle petal. And since I've already got this, I've got it stenciled on, so I really don't need to stencil it on again. I can just choose, I'm just gonna see if I can add, this is a neon color, it might be way too bright, we'll see. We will see. But I know I'm gonna need this to stand out a little more, so I'm just still using that same round brush, and I'm just gonna go back over with this neon color, what I just did with that green. And that should make it pop out more. I think it does. I think it does. So we're just gonna add this where this leaf was. You certainly could just put the stencil back on and do this. This is part of the freehanding. And there was a little leaf over here. And we might need to add a little more, a few more grasses that are a little lighter. Okay, so I got that. And now, oh, wait, I didn't. So this is gonna have to be this brighter green too, but we won't worry about this part quite yet. We'll have to pull that back into the flower in just a second. Go back to your blue and put that down by the little base. I don't like that green right there. Okay. Rinse it out, pick up your white, and start at the tip and go back in. Now this is the January snowdrop, which is one of the birth flowers of January. I'm gonna pull the white down so it goes all the way into that, okay? And it's part of the stencil of the month, which you can sign up for right now. So you normally see a little bit of the line in the snowdrops, and that's actually what we initially stenciled on here, see? So since I've got this nice round skinny brush, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and this little bell part, I'm gonna pull that in, and then I'm just gonna let that pull a little bit into my flower. Because I was on a dark background, it's very possible that I may have to come back with my white just on my tips and pull a little more white back in. If I wanted to highlight, this is the stencil of the month, Essential Stencil Stencil of the month for February. And you can join that now. It's only open for a week. And we opened it on the 15th. So 5 and 7 is 22. Yeah, okay. 15 and 7 is 22. I added a little white to that light green I just used. And I'm just going to highlight a little bit. Just here. That was a little too much. So let's grab a little more of the green. Okay, there you go. That's it. That's better. Just a little bit. And a little bit of my leaf. And a little bit of my leaf. So we added that cute little stencil to my less than cute bunny. It's okay. I can handle it. Now I can go back and start working on the snowdrops in the snow next to our birch trees. So let me just grab the one we just did. So what we've done so far is we did our background. We have done our birch trees and our very background trees. Hang on, I need something to drink. All right, so I'm going to grab our stencil. Because I've used it, I am going to make sure it's clean on the back, so I'm not transferring anything I don't want to. I don't need the tape right now, so I'll take the tape off. And I'm going to position this. What I've tried to do is this is far away, this is mid-ground, and my snowdrops are going to be right in front. They're kind of what I'm thinking of right now. So let's do them about there. Grab my tape. Just going to tape it down. Now, when I just did that snowdrop over there, I used white. I'm not going to use white on this. I'm actually going to do my outline of my snowdrops in that blue color, because I know I'm going to pull that up again. So let's do this. That's white. I'm going to grab the blue. This is that white brush. I'm just going to make sure it's good and offloaded. I'm going to pick up a little of the blue, offload my blue, and I'm just going to do the flower part. So it's just these two little flowers here. I'm going to use it again when I pull my extra flower out. But I can come in here with the green brush I used, and I'm just going to go with, let's just go with Hauser Light. That's fine. I might need to add a little shading to it, but that's okay. So I'm going to load this up. Remember, when I'm loading my stencil brush, I'm picking up paint and I'm swirling it into the paint. But I will always want to go to a piece of paper, paper towel, something, and offload, okay? It might change the color a little bit because it's on this bluish background, but this is pretty dry, so it should work pretty well. Sunshine to clouds in Colorado. Ooh. Okay, so I'm just going to swirl, make sure I get that little bud part. I'm going to add a little more paint, take some off. I was super excited about this stencil, not just because of how very versatile it is. I love to paint flowers. I love to teach painting flowers. And we will very soon be opening our doors to Blooming Brushes again, which is my monthly membership that we concentrate on a flower or flower technique each month. Okay, and we work very hard to break things down in little steps so that you can build your confidence and build your painting skills. All right, so I'm going to lift that off. By keeping it nice and dry, I don't have any bleed. Awesome sauce. I think I'm done with that, but just to be safe, let's wrap it. Okay. We'll come back and play with our leaves and our stems in a little bit, but I'm going to go back to that round brush idea. Cleaned my brush. I'm going to start by adding a little bit of water to my white paint. Okay, so I've thinned it down just a little bit, not a lot. When I thin my paint down, I tap it on a paper towel just to remove any excess water. And I'm going to start at the tips of the outside ones. Oh, and I just remembered something. That's okay. We'll do this, and then we'll do this, and we'll do that. Pull this one down. So I'm going to do the outside, and I'm starting at the tips, and I'm just pulling down. And I'm just going to let that be for just a second because I forgot that I wanted to add this guy right here. It's a good thing I didn't clean out that green brush, right? So he's like he's fallen off the edge. And where's my white brush? Or blue brush, I guess, blue brush. Can we get this one on here too? Okay. So, haven't missed much. I'm going to go into that slightly watered down white paint, tap it on my paper towels, and my outer petals from the tips in. About halfway, maybe a little further. I'm going to do that on all three of them, first and foremost. So I've started my tip, and I know I'm going to have to do this more than once, but that's okay. I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm just wiping it off on my paper towel. And I'm going to pick up a little water and thin a little bit of that blue paint, tap it on my paper towel from the base up. Oops, just on the outer petals first. We haven't done the middle ones yet. Sorry, guys. Now we can do all those middle petals. So rinse it out. Start with the slightly thinned down white paint. Tap it on your paper towel. Pull from the tip down, a little more than halfway. When I showed you the snowdrop on that bunny, this is the year of the rabbit. So I'm going to start working on a couple, hopefully better rabbit paintings. That one was really struggling. Okay, so white, then we're going to go into that lighter, that blue. Going to pull a little up from that cup of the flower. And like I said, I know I'm going to need to repeat that white because that white is going to just kind of fade in. I think a lot of people are super excited to get this. So I'm picking up white and I'm going with straight white now. I'm not thinning this one, and I'm going to pull down so I can see a little more standing out. If by chance I should lose any of my separations of my petals, I can wipe my brush, not clean my brush, pick up a little bit of the blue and just make sure I can see the separation between my petals. And maybe even see a couple little lines coming up. Okay. One more little step for our snowdrop flowers. And I'm going to use some white pearl metallic paint. And I'm not going to need a lot of it, so I'm just going to use a little bit out of the tip or top. And I'm still using that little round brush. Just at the very tips, I'm going to pull some of this metallic back into my flower. Just a tiny, tiny tip. Okay. So we need to address our leaves. So I'm going to grab, this is Hauser Green Medium. I'm just going to get a little puddle of this on my plate. And I'm going to thin it down a little bit with water. And I'm just going to pull a little bit on the back side of, almost looks like a comma stroke, doesn't it? Oops, I picked up the light too. Didn't mean to do that. It's Susie from Denmark. Yay! So I'm just a little bit on the back side of these comma-like petals. I'm going to do a little bit on the back side of this. We'll call this the big leaf. Just a little bit. And I want a little bit on the back side of, we'll call it the little leaf. Remember, I've thinned this down with just a little bit of water. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to make sure I really, when I pull my paint, I'm really twirling my brush. So I have a really nice tip. And I'm going to do the cup of the flowers, and then I'm going to let a little of that green come into my petals. Just a little bit, okay? But one, that'll fill in that bridge area that comes with our stencils. And two, that's kind of how snowdrops actually, the greenery actually does come up a little bit into the petals, okay? Now, because we are just emerging from the snow, we're going to want to pick up a little green, doesn't matter which one really, and I'm just going to flick a couple extra, maybe this green. Like the idea that it's starting to think about. It's thinking about spring. Even though it's gray, it's thinking about spring. All right, I'm going to show you here what I did is I came in and I'm going to make sure I add a little bit of that darker blue where these are turning over so it looks like a little bit of a shadow. And then I'm going to kind of think about how this one would fall and be a little shadow in our snow. And that's a very strong line, but we're going to have a little bit of shadow underneath our flowers. Now, I might have some of it already because I put some in from my trees, right? Right. But I'm going to pick up just a little bit of that blue paint, and I've got a pretty big brush. So if I pat it on my plate, it kind of spreads that paint out. I'm just going to think about a little bit, not right next to, but just a little ways away from where that turn is. Maybe just a little bit underneath my little flowers. Doesn't have to be a lot. It's just an idea of a little bit of a shadow. And some of it's already there for me. I'm going to rinse my brush out because I'm going to go into my white. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of my corner. I'm not being fussy here. And this is where I'm going to lay in. First, we're going to make sure we have some snow still around our grasses. Just a little bit here and there. Break it up. Make sure you're actually almost piling on the snow up here by your little birch trees. So they definitely look like they're in snow. You might even have to go back and touch up a little tapping up on the upper level. Now, fine as is, what I did is I came back and I added just the tiniest little bit of frost hanging off of a couple of the flowers. Yes, I did add a little bunny too. Don't do the bunny. My bunny was a little sad. It's okay. So I'm going to pick up this like that 8 flat again. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of white. Okay, just a little bit. I'm going to tap it off my paper towel. And I'm going to be very, very loose. So I'm just barely just touching. Okay. I don't want this to be a line. I want it to be broken up because if this was frost on these flowers, it would just be, and it wouldn't be a full line. It would just be a little bit. So can you see how lightly I'm holding that? I'm thinking that it's going to fall a little bit onto the cup, a little bit around this curved part. Maybe a little bit around the curved part there. Then without cleaning my brush, I'm just going to wipe it on my paper towel again. I'm going to go back into a little bit of this metallic white. If you don't have the metallic white, you certainly could use a twinkle glitter, or you could even use Deco Art's Enchanted Shimmer in the white would work. It's going to be a little more shimmery. I again touched on my paper towel. I'm just going to ever so lightly touch that. If you wanted to see a little bit of shimmer, shimmy, shimmy. No, can't sing. If you want to see a little bit of shimmer in your snow, if you do it just on the blue without on the white, it'll just give it a little different shimmer completely. If you wanted to add a lot of snow, you could add some snow on the branches. You could even flick some snow. I'm just going to let this be this kind of dreary winter day like it looks like here, but I decided on this one. What snow is there is going to get a little twinkles. So again, I'm just picking a little bit up. I'm going to tap just a touch, not the whole place that I've done my little frost drops. But I am going to go ahead and give it some shimmer in my snow. One more spot I want to show you before we call this done. Do you see the top flower is in a lot of white? To make sure it stands out a little bit, I'm going to go back to that same technique we've been talking about where we pick up just that tiny bit of paint, very tiny, and we find some place on our plate that we can push it back and forth so that paint kind of grows into that water. And I'm just going to wherever, I think I'm going to do this. I'm just going to like make sure that I'm not right next to it. I'm just going a little ways away from it. I'm just going to lay down a little bit of this color so it helps it look like it's a little defined. Yeah, I think I like that. All right. So we've used the one of the 12 flowers of the February Stencil of the Month Club. Now, my birthday's in February, and I happen to love pansies, even though that's a violet, but a violet and a pansy are very close. And we have March Daffodil, April Daisy, and I haven't even taken the rest of them out, so let's do that super, super quick. Oops, that's the add-on, so that won't do me any good. So we've gone to March. So April should be a daisy, if I do believe. Hang on. Grab them. Grabbing these. All right. April was a daisy. I just missed saying it. May is the lily of the valley. June is a rose. July is a water lily. August is a poppy. I love that poppy. I love how they left that center so that can be your dark part of your poppy. That's going to be awesome. Takes us to September of a morning glory. Why did I think it was an aster? October is a marigold, November a peony, and December a narcissus. I can't say it. It's the white pretty flower. Okay. Hey guys, so that's what we did with the stencil of the month, and we did this pretty little snowdrop with a birch tree background, and we also saw that we could be a little more solid with it and show you a blank piece of paper. And we did it with this little bunny looking up at it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope if you're not a member of Stencil of the Month Club, check it out because it's definitely worth it. I love the fact that they allow you to skip a month. You can choose that add-on every month, or you can choose it as you like, which is great. So it's very flexible. And if you use Cheers, you'll save 50% off in your first month. And going to just say it one more time, Essential Stencils got free shipping this month, so it would be an awesome time for you to pick up any stencils or some brushes that you might need and use Cheers, and you can save 10% there as well. Oh, you always learn something when you watch. Oh, I'm so glad. That is my goal. My whole goal, my intention is to serve you with some little bits of tidbits of knowledge that I may have gained over the last 35 some years of painting and teaching. So thank you again so much for watching. Thank you to all those who cheered this on or sprinkled or even shared. So I hope you are having a fabulous Tuesday. I can't wait to finish a couple of the projects I'm working on and get a few more on the class schedule. But until I see you again, oh, thank you for the hearts. Love you too. You guys be kind and you be safe. And cheers until we see you again. Bye-bye.